Hello, friends at Mercy Street. Andy Gullahorn here, coming to you from my home in Nashville, Tennessee. Richard and Melissa asked me if I would send you guys a couple songs and a video. I kind of wish that I could be there in person, but the way the world is right now, it's not in the cards. So I was just thinking, what would I want to do if I was there playing for you? So I got a couple songs for you. It's a little bit more awkward because I'm just sitting here in my studio staring at my camera, the camera on my phone. It'd be much better if I was there with you. But I'll try not to be awkward, and I'll try not to make any mistakes because I don't have the skills to edit videos. Anyways, the first song I was going to play is one that was inspired after a conversation I had with my wife. I was talking to her about these wonderful conversations I was having with other people who had different faith perspectives than I did. And she said, it wouldn't surprise me, Andy, if one day you lost your faith. Now, this wasn't like a harsh comment. It wasn't she wasn't trying to put me down or something. I understood what she was saying. I've struggled with doubts and questions my whole life, and I totally knew where she was coming from. And when she said that it wouldn't surprise her if I lost my faith, I said, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either. I don't remember if I said that out loud or if I just said it in my head, but I remember thinking, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either if I lost my faith. And when I had that thought, I immediately had a flashback, how that happens sometimes. And the flashback was to years and years ago, probably about almost 16 years ago. We were going to a church that was in the middle of a church split or a church plant, depending on who you talk to. But we just had a baby. We just had my baby girl about 16 years ago. And so we weren't really going to the church, or either the church, the new one or the old one. But people were bringing us meals, every day, every other day. People would bring us meals since we had a newborn. And every time people would bring us meals, they'd ask us what we're going to do. Are we going to go to the new church, or are we staying at the old church? And finally, a little ways down the road, this older woman came from the old church, and she said, have you decided what you're going to do? Are you going to go to the new church or the old church? And I said, well, originally I was thinking we'd stay at the old church, but I don't know what it's like to hear the voice of God, but I feel like I'm hearing this call to go to the new church. Apparently that was the wrong answer, because she immediately said, that's the devil. She didn't say it. She yelled it in my living room. That's the devil. And when she said that, immediately I knew I had made the right decision to go to the new church. I didn't want to be around whatever that was, And so anyways, that's the flashback that came into my mind after my wife said, it wouldn't surprise me if you lost your faith. And I said, it wouldn't surprise me either. I remembered that woman sitting in my room. And immediately following that flashback, I didn't hear the voice of God. I don't know what that's like to audibly hear the voice of God. If you guys do that, awesome. It just hasn't happened to me that I'm aware of. But the best way I can describe it is that I felt a posture from God when I would say, it wouldn't surprise me if I lost my faith. And the best way that I could describe the posture of God in that moment was the opposite of that woman in my living room. The opposite of, that's the devil. I felt this posture from God that was saying, okay, if you need to lose your faith, we can do that. And when I felt that posture, there's something about it that made me feel like, okay, I think I can stick around in this territory of faith for a little bit longer. But it's one of those times that show me that God is not afraid of my doubts. He's not afraid of my questions. He's not even afraid of me firing my own God. Because he'd be way more interested in me getting rid of a God, completely tearing down a God of my own understanding, if that God requires me to be sober before I am loved, requires me to act for him to deserve love. I just feel like he's saying, yeah, okay, let's tear that down and let's build up something real. And that's one thing that I've always loved about the 12-step community, having the bravery to fire your own God and to rebuild it with a true understanding of a higher power. Anyways, thinking about that, I wrote this song about firing my own God. You're holding on to anger like it was your mama's hand, holding on to hope it will lead you home again. And you wake up all alone to find you're in a foreign land. When you see what good the holding on has been, let it go. You're holding on to dreams that you adopted as a kid. You always do what's right when you were loved for what you did. And there's only room for failure if you throw them off the scent. So if you're holding on to hiding it again, let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Sometimes letting go feels like dying, with no one there to roll away the storm. But before you know it, you are flying, resurrected to a life you've never known. You're holding to an image of a disconnected God who needs to be protected from the darkness in your heart, who waits for you to sober up before he gives his love. But I think God would say, if that's who he was, let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, nobody here in my office. Anyways, I've been thinking about you guys a lot. I imagine right now sitting in a Mercy Street service. One service that comes to mind, I remember when I was there, I think it was for the 10-year birthday of Mercy Street. And they had all the pastors come back in and for the celebration. But I remember just kind of sitting in the congregation during the service before the celebration, and I wanted to share with you a thought that I had about your particular group of people there at Mercy Street. And maybe a couple weeks before that, or a week before that, I don't know. Time doesn't matter anymore, right? I was playing at a pretty big venue. Like a pretty high profile venue. It was sold out. It wasn't my own show. It was somebody else's show. They asked me to come do some songs in the middle of a set. So, but I was getting to play a dream place, right? It was sold out, lots of people there, thousands of people there. And I had some buddies come who lived out there in Colorado, and they came backstage. And they're like, can you believe you're playing in this place? This is amazing. I mean, how does it feel? Are you just kind of on cloud nine? And I'm a pretty reserved kind of guy. So I was just like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's an honor to play here. And they're like, no, this is crazy. You don't know who else played here? You know, kind of going into what a big deal that they thought it was. And I mean, it was a big deal, and I was really grateful for it. But also, it didn't feel like there was like a huge connection with the people there. You know, I just played a couple songs, and they'll never remember. My last name is Gullahorn. If I say that from stage, nobody's ever going to remember what my name was. It's not going to like take my career to new heights or something like that. And, you know, pretty far from where the audience is. And so I was really grateful for it, but I wouldn't say it was one of the more moving times I've ever played a show. And they just kind of couldn't believe that I wasn't more excited about it. But the truth is, I don't really get excited about a whole lot. Or I do, but I just kind of like this when I'm excited. Anyways, a week later or 2 weeks later, I was sitting there at Mercy Street in the middle of the service, and people were getting up and celebrating milestones, sobriety milestones, birthdays, and just, it was real and honest. And I was standing there in the service. I remember exactly where I was sitting or standing. And I remember thinking, this is way more meaningful to me than playing at that venue. These are real people in the midst of their real lives, being vulnerable and honest and sharing life as a community. I'm not saying it's better than this venue or this venue is better, you know, or worse than whatever, but I'm just saying that's where I felt at home. I loved it. And in a sense, people kind of sharing in their struggles and their failures and in their successes reminded me that in the midst of all of that, God's with me in all of it. He's not just there for the big sold out shows and super venues. He's there for all of it. And he loves me through all of it. And so I wanted to thank you guys for being that kind of a place. And it made me want to finish with this song for you. And normally when I'm playing this song in the midst of people, we do this kind of an exercise. So I don't know if this is going to work over video. But what I want you to think about is your worst day. When I say that, for some of you, immediately a day comes to mind, maybe like a date, like, you know, Tuesday, July 24th or something like that of some year. Maybe some of you have multiple days that you think of, or a season that you think of. But I kind of want you to return to it. And, you know, I think of this song as a way of taking those things that most people are so ashamed of even mentioning, and offering that up as a praise to God. And let's see what he does with it. So take that day. Some of those days people were talking about on that day that I was sitting in the Mercy Street service. And I invite you to hold it there with me. And let me sing this song over you. I don't claim to know what God would say, but for me, I like to imagine God singing this over me as I am holding my worst day up as an offering. You can't help but lose your temper. The fuse is short and frayed. You're running out of mercy on your worst day. The one you want for comfort is the one you have betrayed, and you have nothing to offer on your worst day. But I've seen your true heart reaching for the stars and somehow pulling them in. But on your worst day, you're only reaching your end. So you won't look out the window. It's darkened by your shame, so you can't see the light surrounding your worst day. I've seen your true heart reaching for the stars and somehow pulling them in. But on your worst day, you're only reaching your end. But you don't have to fear your failures or hide the mess you made. I'm crazy in love with you on your worst day. Yes, I am crazy in love with you on your worst day. Well, peace to all of you there at Mercy Street. I look forward to the day when we can be together again.